I want to introduce myself. My name is Pleasant Middlehoff. I'm the founder of Career Jump Academy. I'm also a former teacher, so I very much know what it's like to be excited this time of year, ready to kick off the holiday season and leave the classroom for a little bit. My goal for tonight is to give you a really practical, quick training on how you can take the skills that you are so good at within the classroom and then apply it to your corporate types of roles. So things like interviewing, creating your applications, your resumes. I want to help you be successful in transitioning, whether it's today or if it's in 6 months. So we're going to go through some really practical tips, some ways that you can actually apply these today and start viewing your lens of skills. And we'll get this done here in 27 minutes. We'll give you good stuff. You'll also stick around for the end because you're going to get some really valuable resources. You'll have a cheat sheet for how you can tweak your resume and translate all of your valuable skills on paper. And then also ways to reframe how you're speaking within interviews. So that way, when you're talking to a business leader and a business professional, they are hearing exactly the language that they need in order to see that you are the right person for the role. Please feel free to drop questions in the chat. Would love to interact with you throughout, answer things as we go along, but let's kick it off. All right, so I want to start off by saying this. The backgrounds that we have as educators, we went into the education field because we love to teach, we love to help people, we wanted to make an impact on kids. That background actually gave you so many different qualifications that really we undervalue as educators, or we talk the educator language. That's what we're really going to be addressing today. So when you're looking at jobs and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. Yes, you could very, very easily and probably more efficiently than people that haven't managed a classroom or parents or all the demands that are required of you from administration. You name it, you're doing it. But the problem is that most educators don't have the ways that they can take their language of education talk, the shop talk, and translate it into the corporate language. That's what we're going to do today. And you'll see when you are speaking in a way that would represent to educators, wow, this person really knows their stuff. When you start translating it for the corporate world or you're not translating it well, that's when you're not getting the responses on, applications that you're submitting. That's when you're not getting the interviews. That's when you're getting into roles that you're just like, okay, this is terrible. So we're going to address that all tonight. And I'm going to give you some great ways that you can actually change that. So here's a reality. When you're thinking about a new role within a corporation or a private company, the private companies have a much different value set, and they want to hear different things other than when you would be shop talking as a teacher. So, we say things like lesson planning and managing outcomes, differentiated instruction, all of the things that when you say it to another educator, they're like, oh yeah, of course, that's table stakes. That's what we do. But when you're looking at it from a business perspective, it's going to sound so much different. When you start looking at what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, not the names of it, but the actual actions of it, and you start aligning that to things that they have on their actual job descriptions that they want, stakeholder management or communication, data analysis, my goodness, you do all of that. You just call it something different. You call it talking to parents. You call reporting to administration. You call it team meetings. You call it in services. So we are going to start renaming these things in a way that makes sense to a business, but also maintains your authenticity as an educator. Now, I want to just set the stage real quickly. How do I know this works? And how do I know this is a problem? Picture on the left was my last year teaching. I spent 5 years in education, got my master's in administration. And it was that year that I was deciding, do I want to stay or do I want to do something different? And I did realize that there were things that did not align with my life. The pay, for one, I think all educators can agree with that. But then two, I didn't have the flexibility that I needed for my family at that time. I knew that I needed something that was going to give me a much wider range of hours, things that I could be more flexible with my young kids. And so I decided to make a move. And it was the best decision I ever made in my career. And since then, I've worked at billion-dollar startups. I've led and managed teams. I've handled different revenue organizations globally. I've worked with venture capitalists. I've done a lot of things. but I did it very strategically. And I'm going to show you how to do some of that tonight. But all in all, when I stepped back, as my last role was a COO, I stepped back and I started thinking about how I was able to do it and how I've coached other people to do it as well. And that was the origin of Career Jump Academy. It's an amazing framework. It is specifically designed for people like you, for teachers that are looking to make a career change, but really their lens is focused on education and they want to be focused on something else. They just don't know what it is. So that's what we're going to go through. All right, keep on moving. All right, so here are the 3 big mistakes that you actually want to avoid. And this is true whether you're in education or, another very niche or specific role, you want to avoid these things. So first thing is that when you're talking about yourself, your actions, the things that you've done, when you're applying, when you're crafting your resume, don't talk about the tasks that you do because those are really minute. Those are minuscule. What you want to talk about is the outcomes. So just like you write lesson plans that are outcome driven, that's the same way that you actually want to talk about you on your resume. So the things that you actually achieved by doing those specific tasks. We're going to give you some examples here in just a few minutes. The other piece, and this is so true in a lot of professions. I'm even guilty of this, especially when I start talking about sales. When I'm talking to people that are not in sales, I use all of the acronyms, CRM and all of these things that as a seller or as someone that's been in tech, I understand. But then when you're talking to somebody else, they don't get it. So that's the same thing as how you're going to be thinking about your way that you're communicating to stakeholders or people that you're interviewing with. Don't use the education vernacular. Don't use like, hey, I help create IEPs. That's how I do my behavior or my plans, or I am, differentiating my instruction and creating these robust remediation plans. Don't use those verbiage. Take it, strip it clean of education speak, strip it clean of emotion, because there's a lot of emotion when it comes to teaching too, but keep it in business language. Again, you're going to get a resource here in a little bit that actually has a cheat sheet of business language and teacher language, how you can take things like lesson planning, classroom management, and develop your writing and your communication in a way that shows the values to businesses. Now, the other one is what am I going to do outside of teaching? Now, there's 2 roles here. There's 2 kind of swim lanes. One swim lane is a really, really broad swim lane. I will take anything and everything just to get something different. The second lane is being really, really too narrow visioned. And what I mean is, sometimes you only think about education roles. That's where I want you to just pause, take a second, and really do some homework. We've got support in order to help you find the right roles, but understanding where you want to go next is really important, and laser focusing on the right opportunities so that way you can really craft your message well is what's going to make you stand out. We have a day and era where everyone can click on the interview button, click on help me with AI. They're crafting things that they don't even really, it doesn't sound like them, but it's easier and it's like makes sense because AI is doing it. So it's really smart. But that is not the way that you need to be applying. You need to be looking at the roles and realizing that if you're making a big change or you're making something in a jump from teaching, you need to spend the extra time to actually personalize it and make it sound aligned to the actual application that you're putting in. So it does take time, but the work always pays off. Now, what does translation look like? I'm giving you one example. You're going to get 20 on the resource. So something simple as, I taught English for 20 years. Again, that is an action. That's a task that you did. It says, I taught in this classroom. I was the team lead and of the history department, or I taught special education, or, all the different things that we put on the resume. That's what you want to start stripping out, the things that you did. Instead, you want to start naming the outcomes. So things like I delivered specialized content. I was able to manage performance of different types of learners and different types of personalities. I was able to manage complex stakeholder relationships, because we all know that parents and administrators and students all combined make a complex relationship. So that's the way that you can manage that. Adapting the delivery to diverse learning, language, and compliance needs. Holy mackerel, compliance is always a major thing that people are thinking about, businesses. So if you can start addressing how you help with reducing risk, help improve revenue outcomes, and also ensure compliance, those are three big buckets that you will actually be able to promote yourself and show even higher value. So when you're starting to look at the things that you do, write down a list. I'm in a daytime. You are managing X number of students. Those are the end users. Those are your clients. You are, if you're a team lead and you're running the collaboration meetings, you are running collaborative different meetings that are producing outcomes that are benefiting the whole school or the whole department. When you think about all of the different things you do, even when it comes to, if maybe you're a teacher that is able to get all of their grading done, which I never was. I was always a little behind on that because I always like to over assign projects that I thought were really fun, but then are always a mess to grade. But if you're one of those teachers, you can get all of your grading done. That is task management and prioritization of your time like none other. And so when someone's asking you, listen, like we have a really super, high energy, fast paced, fast adapting type of culture, you got that because you know that you can adapt quickly, that you can prioritize, that you can task manage, and that you can execute flawlessly on that. So those are the things, those executive functions, your emotional intelligence, all of those things are so important to list out, but not as an action, as an outcome. What was produced because you were able to do that? Now, let me give you some examples of roles. We talked about a little bit like avoiding the mistake of not, going so broad or just tunnel visioning into one specific area and then getting frustrated. Here's some ways that you can start thinking about and branching out. And a lot of times as educators, we only think about those education roles. What is it that I would actually be good at outside of education? I've done a couple of these roles. Let me give you some examples of them. So corporate training. Corporate training is an amazing position for an educator. It allows you to develop strategies almost the same as what you're doing with students, but you're doing it in a much more higher stakes environment. You are training people that are getting paid by the company, that are expected to hit certain outcomes. It is a really great job for educators because you're able to then understand how people are learning, how they're applying, assessing, did this actually work, or do I need to go revise the plans and create some type of remediation so we all get there? You're promoting adoption, all of the things that companies really need, which is highly trained, highly skilled employees. That's what you can deliver. And these don't always have to be technical roles. Do you sometimes need to have a technology, a prowess and be able to learn new things quickly? Absolutely. Sometimes you do. But I will tell you, any tool that you want to learn, there's a little snippet of something out there to help you understand it and to get the basics of it. So if you're starting to look at roles and they're showing a couple of things that you know that you need to kind of brush up on or just learn what they are so you can speak to it, then I would recommend doing that before you start applying and before you start interviewing. Customer success. Oh my goodness. Customer success roles. This one's one that's typically a salary role, but then also has a commission component. But it is educating your customers. It is promoting engagement. It is building a relationship that allows them to know that you are the go-to person and they want to learn from you. It is a great blend of a role because you're able to do that relationship building, but then also the education piece in a much different way, and you get paid a lot more for it. Operations, I think a lot about like math teachers and people that are teaching more on the tech side or the data and the analytics side. Operations is a great job for teachers. That was my last role, was the chief operating officer. That is so great because it helps the company have a structure, all of the processes, all of the systems, looking at how we're utilizing different things and how to make the business run smoother. It's more project oriented. Again, that was why I was really excited in this last role, because I wanted more of a project feel, and I wanted to be able to build something. I wanted to figure out how things could be well oiled and run. And I also know my data really well. So that was one of the things that I really loved about operations. Great for educators. For those, especially people that are not super tech savvy, a lot of times nonprofits are really great options. It is hard. It is hard a lot of times for nonprofits to get really qualified candidates, because there's a little bit longer sales cycles typically if you're selling. And there also is a lot of education and relationship building, and it does take a specific type of person to do this. Teachers are great. So look for nonprofits. There are things like grant writing. There's, client relations. There are a lot of different jobs in a nonprofit. And again, they're typically harder roles to find really qualified people because it takes a certain skill set. And then the last thing is communications, being a communications director. If you're great at writing, if you're great at graphics, and you're always the one that's creating these lessons that are super visually and just engaging in the way that you present them, or the activities that you're setting up, communications could be a really, really good role or swim lane for you. So thinking about doing like marketing communications, internal communications, things like that. Executive assistants are really great, and they're well paid at great companies. But being able to manage the communications to all the different stakeholders and do it in a way that is really effective. These are just some of the ways that you can start thinking of, let me look here. It's not education. Sure, could you get an education sales job? Could you get a job at an education tech company? Yes, absolutely. If that's something that you feel passionate about and you would be a great seller, do it. That was my first role outside of teaching. I went into sales. But all of these things are just to give you a direction, a starting point, so that way you can actually find something and start looking into these roles and practicing some of the skills. I want to just finish this, and I'm going to share the resources with you. What I want to start saying is with the critical decisions. These are the things that before you start making a move, before you start making a jump, you need to be really, really careful to avoid these mistakes. The first thing is on your timing. Understand your timing. If you know that your contract's up in a few months, then start planning for it today if it's something that you're listening to the signals from. Don't wait until the very last minute, until you're feeling like, oh, I need just, don't wait for that. Go ahead and just start planning for it. The second thing is your direction. Don't just focus in on one and then just apply. You're going to get discouraged. Do some research. Look and see what else is out there, because there is a lot out there. Do your research, explore different paths, and test the waters. Talk to people. Listen, I cannot overemphasize how important it is to talk to people. And if you go on LinkedIn, even if you don't have this crazy robust profile, but if you find a role that you love, just do a quick LinkedIn search and find someone that has that role and reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to move into the space. I'm coming from education. Is it possible to pick your brain for 10 minutes? I would love to do that. People are really open to doing those types of things. They really are, especially when you sprinkle it with a little bit of flattery, like, hey, it looks like you are crushing it in this role. It looks like you are an expert in this role. People love to hear that. So sprinkle a little bit of flattery on there and make a really, really clear, specific ask, but do your research first. And then the last piece is be careful with your positioning. The positioning is really important. Chris, I saw your question in here. And that's that's how I'm going to answer this. Your positioning is actually really, really important. So should your resume look exactly like the job posting? No, not necessarily. But your your resume should highlight and support the job posting. So if it says that you need X number of, you need to do this type of technology, or you need to be able to communicate effectively, effective communications on like so many different job roles, then instead of it mirroring that, you could say, I manage stakeholder relationships while communicating effectively to be able to produce such and such outcome. So definitely weave in those words, but don't do it just as like, I am communicating effectively. Do it in a way where you're actually showing that, hey, I was doing this. I needed to use this communication skill, and this was the outcome that it produced. And that's the best way to really, really support and beef up your resume. You never want to try to get in every single point and like customize it each time. You need to have a really strong resume, and those are things that we can help with, but you should at least have their must-haves woven into your resume and plug them in. And again, I'm going to share with you guys a cheat sheet here. Give me 2 seconds. And what you can actually do is use this and take, 5 of the things that are on here, expand on them a little bit. These are just really good directions. This is like the quick stop, like where you can get started and how you can move forward with it. But use a few of them and plug it into your resume. Before I share this, I do want to just highlight these 2 quotes, because you cannot miss these ones. You need clarity before change. If you jump into a new job or you jump into something, you may have to at that time because you need a job, or something is so bad in your current position that it is costing you far more. So you may need to find something immediately. That's not your career path though. You need to be thinking about the long term before you make investments, before you start, doing all this work and exploding up your life. Have the clarity before you make the big change and commit to something. The second piece is make sure that you're understanding that timing piece. Crisis always comes when you don't have a choice, when you are backed into a wall and the choice is made for you. You feel desperate. You feel really, really stressed out, to be quite honest, because there's no other options. So even if you're at the place today where the choice has already been taken from you, or, you made the choice without something lined up, that's okay. Plan for the next one. You don't want to be in crisis mode again. You want to have the tool sets to be able to make the next move and the next move. Will you be in the same job for 15 years? Probably not. That's not the average. On average, people make, 8 to 12 career changes or job changes. So, but you should have the skill sets to be able to identify, hey, this career is no longer fitting for me now. Now it's time to make another move. And that's the goal, is to get the tool sets to be able to do that each time you feel like your career is misaligned. And that way you always maintain the choice. All right, so I'm sharing with you all 3 things. The first one is a cheat sheet that will show you, here's 20 different things, like lesson planning, like classroom management, behavioral plans, presentation, lecturing and presentation, things that you do on a regular basis. You'll see, you could probably name 50 more. And then it gives you the way that you can actually, here's what you've done. Here's the actions that it takes to do those things. And again, it's just a few highlights. You could expand on them a whole lot more, but this is to give you a real clear idea. And then the third piece is, how do you then translate it when you're writing out an application, when it's asking you questions? Here's ways that you can respond that are in business language, stripped of emotions, stripped of educator speak, and how it actually relates to job applications and your resume. The second one is the Nail the Interview PDF. So all of those things that, it's great if you put it on your resume or you put it on your application and you get the interview. But then if you go into the interview and you're speaking completely differently, or you're not able to articulate the same type of values and the same type of skill sets, well, you're going to get the interview, but you're not going to get the call back. So that second cheat sheet is something that allows you to practice. And I would tell you this, practice before you go into interviews. When you're speaking to people, if they're saying, what do you do? practice this, because the more that you can just quickly and clearly articulate that this is the things that I've done, and it sounds in a way that is outcome driven, that's when you become super fluent, and that's when you really pique interest of employers. So I hope those are helpful for you. If you have any questions on them, or you want to run ideas off, or like, hey, these are some examples of things that I do currently, how would I translate that? Happy to help and happy to support. The third thing that I shared is a one pager about the Career Jump Academy program. Because here's the reality, is that it's really hard sometimes to do this, and it's overwhelming. Even if you're given a cheat sheet, even if you're in a training, it's overwhelming to change the way that you view job roles, the way that you view positions, the way that you view companies, the way that you view yourself. It is really hard to step out of the educator role sometimes, and then to see beyond that. So that's where we help. So I created Career Jump Academy for teachers. I understand where you've been. I understand what you're doing. I understand your frustration and your burnout. That's why I decided to change, because when I outweighed the pros and the cons, I realized that the cons were far more than the pros. So that's why I left. So what makes us different, though, is that this is a framework that isn't just going to help you get out of teaching or find your next career. This is a mindset. I have made 4 huge career moves in my career, and I've done it all strategically. Each one was up. Each one was exactly what I was looking for, and I went after them, and I did it with a framework, and that's what's built into the Career Jump Academy program. So I want you to understand, this is built for you. It's built by a teacher who understands and has done it, which is very unique in the market. You may get a teacher, you may get a career changer or a corporate leader, but rarely do you get both. Now, the next piece is that you'll see in the slide handout, and we'll go through it real quickly as we're about to wrap up here, but this is a hybrid program. It is not a take a course, or it is not a, hey, we'll talk twice a month and shoot me a couple of emails. This is a program, again, with teachers in mind. I understand your salary constraints. I understand how much sometimes you just need to get on the phone and talk things through with people. That's a part of our collaborative nature. So this hybrid approach allows you to have the independent learning, which we all know is so important, but then also the collaboration and the coaching. So within the Career Jump Academy program, you get the Career Jump Mastery course, which I promise you will take your mindset and your confidence level to a whole different level, because it is filled with exercises that you probably may have not used throughout your career. And if you did, maybe it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago when you first joined teaching. But this is something that is designed to help give you that confidence boost and to really own the value of your story. So that way, when you are in front of people and you're talking to them, you're interviewing, you are naturally communicating it. You're not second guessing yourself. So that's what the framework provides. So you can do it and you can control and own your career path. We give you weekly one-on-one coaching, and that's one thing that I provide. And I also have another coach that does on the life and wellness side and a few others, but you will get strategic coaching from me. I understand you. And that's why I want to help. And then the other piece is, you're going to be looking at things, and sure, in theory and in verbiage, it's great, but am I doing it right? You need feedback. So the resume, interview, practice, getting that one-on-one feedback, and just the practice of like, what are the questions I might be asked? How can I respond to it? And getting that true, blunt feedback, whether it's good or bad, but all of it's designed to actually support your growth and get you where you're going. So those are just some of the big pieces to it. Our program provides you, the system itself is very, very simple. It's $149 a month. There's not a contract. You're not hooked into it. I know you're going to be hooked into it because you'll see such a difference. But when you're going through the program, each month for the first 3 months, you get that one-on-one coaching. So that's 12 weeks. Now, again, you're not locked into 12 weeks, but I'm sorry, 12 weeks. So you're not locked into 12 weeks, but you're doing it for a month. If you want to do it some more, so the first 3 months, you get that one-on-one coaching. Beyond that, you are getting resources to help you when it comes to job growth. When you land a role, okay, you're new into this. How are you supported? Like where do you go? We don't want to drop you. So it is a subscription program because there are skill-based courses, negotiation, working with AI, all the different things that you're likely going to need to freshen up on. Plus, you still get the peer-and-peer collaboration, and you get different types of coaching, whether it's through skill-based or one-on-one coaching beyond that. You have access to that. And it starts immediately. So as soon as you sign up, you are able to get access to the program, schedule your first coaching call. And even if you're not planning on moving for the next 2 months or 3 months, or when it's summertime, have a plan, because when you find the right role, you want to go after it, whether that's now and they realize, hey, this is a valuable person. This is someone that we want to hire when their contract's up. Or you might find something that is just too incredibly good that you don't want to continue for the rest of the year. I'm not saying one way or the other which one's right for you. What I'm saying is if you don't start planning now, you're going to be following or hitting up another year. You're going to be even more burned out. And you're going to be wondering each year as they pass, is there more for me? Or is this all that there is? Am I going to be just sitting here until retirement, hearing everyone else complain about who knows what, because there's kids that are uncontrollable. There's parents that are a hot mess. All of those things, they're not going to get much better at this point. So make a plan to either improve the situation where you're at, if there's a way to, or make a plan to start transitioning out. But do it before the choice is taken from you, and do it with the support of someone that knows how to navigate the entire process from start to finish, and that understands what you need and the value that I bring to you. So with that, I am going to wrap up. If there are any questions, if you need any support, there's a link to sign up in the chat, I believe. And then you have the files. I'll also send those over via email, but you have access to the resources. Please reach out if you have questions. Would love to chat with you. If you want to schedule a call and talk through your situation, let's do it. I'll have that in my email coming out soon. Thank you all so much for being on the webinar. I really appreciate it. I hope it was valuable for you. As I promised, I would keep it short because I know you all are ready to get going after a long day. So have a great evening. Have a happy holidays and enjoy your break or the time with your family. But I hope I get to speak with you all soon. Bye now.